Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name's Kim Driscoll, and I work for the New Brunswick Adoption Foundation. And November is Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month. As part of that, I decided to do a five-part series into the journey into adoption. And this is part five, placement. So during your journey, after the matching process, which is part four, if you want more information, you can look at our video on part four. The next step is the placement of the child in your home. Normally, this child will stay in your home for 12 months before you then submit your paperwork for the adoption order to be granted by the judge. I'm so excited to have Chelsea join us here today. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I have a few questions and I can't wait to get started. So let's get started. After being matched with your child, how did you prepare for them to come in your home?
During the wait to be matched, we already had a bedroom prepared for children. So we had bunk beds in the bedroom and some furniture already ready to go. It doubled as a guest room, while we were waiting. And once we received my son's profile, there were some items in the profile and some information that let us know he was really into Paw Patrol. So that's actually what we themed his bedroom. So it was a Paw Patrol bedroom. And then you do have about a week or two until they do come into your home after you are able to meet them. So you still do have a couple weeks to get to know your child a little bit better, to know their likes and what might make them feel really comfortable. So we purchased some things like toys, trucks, cars. He's really into, still is. Um, After, like during those 2 weeks before he was able to come into the house. And then we also left some stuff for him to help us with once he did move in. So some placement of the furniture he helped with. He helped pick out some of the toys. He helped pick out some of the artwork that we hung up in his bedroom. So he helped with some of that. So it helped him feel a little bit more comfortable and really made it feel like his bedroom.
You know what? I don't think I've ever heard a parent tell me before that they got the child to help them with the placement of the furniture. Like that is something new to me. That is so excellent. That autonomy that you're allowing him to have. And I know he's 4 years old, but it's still, they have their own comfort level. They have their own likes and dislikes by then. I mean, they're definitely 4-year-olds tend to be very verbal about what they like and don't like. And the fact that you didn't go all out and do the whole entire room and you allowed him to have some decisions that made it, well, I say personal to him, but my goodness, that is like such a good strategy.
He
And
really,
I'm
he
sure
really
when,
wanted a bedside table, and that was something that we didn't have originally there. And it was because he wanted to have a little glass of water next to when he went to bed at night. So it makes sense now, but at the time we didn't have it there. So it was a quick, easy. We had it in the room. We just moved it next to his bed, and it's still there 2 years later. So
oh, I love that. Um, what was the adjustment like once he was placed in your home? And what were some of the challenges and how did you overcome them? What strategies did you use?
So I would say the biggest challenge was leading up to the placement into the home. So the going back and forth, the transition. So the transition was about 2 months of going back and from when we met him to when he moved in. And that was really difficult and something that I don't think we were really fully prepared for it. He lived about an hour and a half in the foster home away from our house. So we had to do a lot of back and forth driving. He had never, ever been on a car ride that long before. So that was just brand new for him altogether. And then just coming up with car games and car songs. We had like certain songs we would play every single time. And then he also got used to sort of looking out the window and knowing when he was close to home. So the town that we live in has excuse me, a water tower when you first come into town. And as soon as he saw the water tower, he knew he was home. So just kind of getting him used to that car ride. It was hard though. The transition from him going from foster home to living full time, I think was the most challenging. And I think using the support group, we use the support group. I used to post in it to ask for tips and tricks. It was really important because other parents can't really relate to that. Like it's just not something other parents would ever go through. So reaching out and finding support during that time is important. And it is emotional. I was saying before at the beginning, you're kind of getting this child from his home, but middle way through, it felt like you were dropping, we were dropping our son off to someone else. And that was really hard and being away from him. The foster homes do let you call and send videos. There are some things that they'll let you do to ease that time. It's worth it. You'll get there. You just have to kind of stay on that path until they get into your house and full time. Once he was living with us full time, honestly, the transition was really, really easy. He didn't have a lot of, he wasn't super picky eater. My husband's a chef, so, but we didn't immediately go into, serving him caviar and foie gras or something like that, like we made hot dogs and craft dinner and we eased him into everything and let him kind of help dictate how that process would go. We also gave him a lot of time and space to be in the home, be in his bedroom. He could choose where he wanted to play, but often he would be with us. If we were somewhere in the house, he wanted to be with us all the time. Um, and yeah, so we just give a lot of time and space and picking up on his cues and keeping a routine. Routine and consistency are really key, um, and not overwhelming him with a lot of visitors, parties. Our family and friends were really excited for us, and we were too. But we did hold off on a lot of that stuff. It happened to be during COVID, so we also didn't. We weren't allowed to have a lot of visitors, but in hindsight, like I really feel like that helped go really smooth.
I'm so glad to say that because when I talk to pre-adoptive parents, that's what I tell them. The advice I give them is almost exactly everything you said, including keep your circle small, right? This child has gone through a lot of transitions and they need time to get used to their environment, the surroundings. And on top of that, I loved how you said about the water tower, because that really just goes to point out the hypervigilance, right? Our children, children from care, tend to be very hypervigilant. So they'll notice things that we don't know they're noticing. So for him to pick up on, okay, like the color of your car that pulls in the driveway, the water tower means I'm getting to my home, etc. It just goes to show you like they're listening and they're watching. So don't give them too much to do at once. When I speak to pre-adoptive parents about a child being placed in their care, some of the most common questions that I get asked are, how do you know what they like to eat? How do you make them feel safe and comfortable? Can you talk a little bit about that?
We asked a lot of questions. My husband and I had a list ready. And honestly, we had the list ready even before we were matched because that was something I think they told us to have that ready to go when we did Pride, was to have the list ready. And so some of the things that we asked right away were his daily routine. What did that look like? Did he nap? What time did he go to bed? How did he sleep through the night? Height and weight, and that's super important because you need to get a car seat. Chances are, unless you're, over 7 or 8 years old, and you need that car seat because second or third visit in, you're allowed to take the child out of the foster home. So you'll want to get that and have it installed and ready to go. As well, you'll want shoe size and clothing size, and for yourself and also for your friends and family, because right away, they will all ask, what can we get, what do you need? And so getting them new clothes is something you'll need to do anyway, so it's good to have that ready to go and ready to tell people. Favorite activities, shows, movies. The foster family does have all of that information. So as long as you have your list ready to ask all of these questions, you should be able to get pretty good answers from them. And also, like I mentioned, you have a couple weeks before they're even coming to your home that you'll have a chance to talk and get to know them and ask them a lot of these questions yourself. I mean, obviously that's age dependent. But if they're old enough to tell you, I really love eating macaroni and cheese, then you already know that. But at the same point, like he didn't have any food aversion, so they're kids. They're super adaptable and they like to try new things. But yeah, having the list ready for the foster home and then asking them when you meet them.
That sounds phenomenal. I would have met you before I adopted my son because I didn't have a list available. And I wish I would have because he didn't have a lot of the clothes that he needed. It was a change in season at the time. So my friends actually took me out to the mall. I gave them my credit card and I just followed behind. I myself was feeling overwhelmed by the amount of changes that were happening. And I did have a lot to process. Like it's a lot to go through when you're adopting a child, right? So they walked through each store, picked up and matched outfits. And I'm telling you, just to have that support while I was going through it was phenomenal. I came home, I put everything away, and it just settled me. It was like, hey, I'm prepared now. So if I would have thought to ask them, his height and weight and shoe size, etc., I think I would have felt more prepared for sure. So I'm so happy you mentioned that. And the car seat definitely is an important one. So, excellent tips. Did you find it easy to create a good rapport? And when I say rapport, I really mean connection. What strategies did you use to do that?
So the first meeting is you're very nervous. I mean, I so nervous. And we had an hour and a half drive to talk about, what would this be like? And you have no idea. And you walk in but the child feels the same way. And we had called ahead to the foster home and asked what they thought a really great gift would be, something that he was really into. And at the time, it was toy phones. So we brought this phone with us for him, and he was over the moon. He couldn't believe it. He had this phone, and it was an icebreaker, a great icebreaker, because right away we're coming there with something that he really was excited about. So he was excited to see us from then on. Like every time we came, we would play with this phone that we got him. And and then once you're able to kind of go out of the foster home, you usually only visit I think 2 or 3 times. Once you're able to bring them out with just you really have an opportunity to bond and get to know each other. And we would do fun activities. We went bowling, we went to an arcade, but we would also just do some really slow activities. We went to Rockwood Park to feed ducks. And sometimes it was just a lot of quiet time and being together and letting him sort of lead any conversation, or sometimes it was just some quiet time together and a lot of driving time too. So you have a, you have to kind of read what that child really needs and wants. Um, and I think taking it slow. And then once he was in the home, again, we just sort of let him um, decide what he wanted to do, where he wanted to play. We didn't have a lot of structured activities at the beginning. One thing, one activity we started right away was swimming lessons. So he and I did swimming lessons together, just the two of us. So we went once a week and it was really fun for him and he got to know some children in the area. So that was important too. But that was the only activity we did for a couple months. And it kind of eased him into things slowly. Um, and that was the first activity he had ever done. He had never been on a team sport or swim lessons. So for him that was really big. But I think, just the one big thing at the very beginning was enough. Um, but I will say, our son is very easygoing. Ace still is. So a lot of his personality helped with that too, but he just wanted to be with us. He still does. He's still the same way. He just wants to, whatever we're doing, he wants to be with us. So
Oh, that's amazing. Like your connection sounds phenomenal. And like you're saying, some of it may be his personality, but I definitely say some of it is due to your skill set and the strategies you used. I'm always telling people to keep their world smaller. I think I just said that a few minutes ago. And I truly mean like everything in this child's life has changed from the spices you put into your food to what time they may go to bed, what do the sheets or pillows feel like, the voices in the home, everything. So we do talk about the honeymoon phase. And a lot of people, sounds like you didn't have that where it changed a lot. But again, I think you got to give yourself credit where credit's due. I think it's more than just his personality. It's literally what your journey that you went through is just so skilled and informative that I'm just so happy you're sharing it with our participants today because the fact that you didn't, put them into an array of activities at first so that they had to go through even more transitions, day after day, week after week. The fact that you allow quiet time, there's nothing wrong with quiet time, right? There's nothing wrong with quiet play. And then, of course, you balanced it by, like you said, well, he loves to be around you, but you balanced it with that attunement to him, his needs, um, and time to make those connections with you guys. Time, I say time to fall in love because I'm always a huge advocate that you need to fall in love with your child, right? You
absolutely.
didn't have that opportunity for the 9 months, that they were growing inside the bio mom's belly. So you need that opportunity now. And sometimes it can happen almost immediately, and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, there's nothing wrong with that. They're a stranger to you, and same as you're a stranger to them. Get to know them, right? Get to take that time. So we know that children from care may be diagnosed with attachment disorders and or often other diagnoses. What attributes in your parenting strategies would you say were the most effective?
So, in our experience, we didn't have, I would say, he didn't really have a lot of that stuff that we had to deal with. I think the biggest thing was there was some grief, and there still is some grief associated with some of the family members that he lost. And we would just let him talk about that, and even the foster home too. We would let him talk about that, talk that through, and we had some strategies to deal with that. Where we would let him kind of write a letter. Even though the letter didn't go anywhere, we would have him write, just an update to a sibling that he doesn't have contact with anymore. And we just sort of we just let him grieve and really and it's the steps of grief that they go through, and it's really easy to forget that it's grief. Like, even though a person may not have passed away, for them that life is over, and there are people that may know that aren't coming with them in the rest of their life and their journey. And I think that's just important to remember that. And they go back and forth. There would be weeks where we didn't hear about the foster home, and then all of a sudden it would pop up. Or there would be the same thing with a sibling that he has doesn't have contact with anymore. And sometimes it would be like a year, and then it popped back up. And just letting him feel those kind of emotions and grief. Um, but that was the only thing that we really ended up having to deal with, and we still do. And we were able to as well to use the mental health. They provide counseling for kids as well to deal with that. So we've also tapped into that resource. It's a community resource, and he was able to do some one-on-one sessions there, and he got a toolbox that he brought home, and there's some great tools that we still use for that as well.
It's amazing to think about the journey that your family has been on up to this point, but to be so aware of the loss and grief part of it, that is amazing. Like I'm sitting here and it's not that I'm thinking of what to say next. I'm just amazed that your ability to attune to him and to allow that to happen and process it the way he needed to process it is phenomenal. We have so many pre-adoptive participants that aren't thinking of those things at the time. Like really, especially when they're moving in and you worry about everything. Like the journey, like we all know, we every time we talk to a social worker, we're a little bit worried about, well, what did they think of our answer? Or like if we ask too many questions, well, did they think that we are ready for this child? Like there's so many worries to it that these things can sometimes not come into our thoughts until later, but yet they are right there. They're immediate with our children. So that loss and grief part is very important. I'm so glad you mentioned it. So glad. So what advice would you give to someone who is awaiting their child to be placed with them?
I would say to prepare yourself for big life change, to be easy on yourself, be kind to yourself, because I think we all get so excited. And I remember because we have two adoptions, as you know. So the first, before my son's, the first adoption, just wanting everything to be so perfect. And, the second that something wasn't perfect, you're always questioning, like, oh no, what if, what if the social worker's coming over and I didn't get a chance to mop the floors? What will they think? Um, they won't think about it. You don't need to go to all of these lengths where you're, stressing yourself out. Worry about yourself and your child, and don't be so stressed out about all the small stuff. And you don't need to be a perfect parent because you just need to allow yourself to make mistakes and just do your best. And it's a process, and it takes a lot emotionally and mentally. So be kind to yourself, and don't expect to be a perfect parent. Um, and I also think that, that worry and stress that goes along with working with the department, that can also be um, big. And have a voice for your child. If you feel like something is off or a concern, voice it and have that a strong voice. Once you're matched with your child, I mean, it's your child. And our last social worker was very adamant that if we felt it was in the best interest of our child, then she trusted us. We were the parents. And so our first adoption, I think we were just so timid. We were so nervous and shy and nervous that if we said the wrong thing, what would they think about us? And I think just have that sort of confidence that you're their parent now, and you can make these decisions. And I think that's really important.
Love it because I almost, when you were speaking, it's like I summed it up in my head to say advocate, right? Not only do you need to be an advocate for your child that's coming into your home, and in so many different ways, whether it be through the school system, family doctors, social workers, family and friends. Um, you don't think like, oh, I'm going to have to advocate in a way to say, no, you can't come over today, to your, sister or something because, your child's having an off day and you need that time with them. Or I'm sorry, I don't want you to be here every time at bedtime reading the bedtime stories to them. That's the job of us right now. We need to show them, what our roles are in their lives. Um, but also for your relationships, whether you're a single parent or you have a partner in the home with you, etc. Advocate for yourself and know that you need that time too. You need time to, um, go to the mall on a Friday night and have a Tim Hortons coffee and sit and chat with a friend. So continue your own self-care whether it means having someone come in and take care of them for a couple of hours, but don't lose yourself in the process, because the stronger you are emotionally and mentally, it just means that your journey will go in a more healthy direction. And you won't, I don't want to say burn out, but you won't have as much stress in your life. I love how you said you have been through this journey twice. Um, and that the first time you were very, quote, timid is your word, and that you were scared of things, what to say, and like I said, what was right, what was wrong. And the fact that your second adoption only took place 2 years after your first, um, you knew the process. So you were able to say, no, like this is what my child needs. We need to get this done, etc. Um, and it went a long way in making you feel like, yes, I'm an advocate for your child, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you gave a wealth of information today. I'm so glad that people are able to come to our support groups, whether it's late night talks or high needs. We have so many. Check out our website at www.nbadoption.ca. But it's people like Chelsea that you're going to meet. It's people that have been through this journey that are able to soothe some of your worries, answer some of your questions, right? It's all about meeting that peer-to-peer networking. So I wish I hadn't worked for the network when I adopted my son. So I wish that I would have met more people like you, Chelsea, at the time. And I'm so glad that once I joined the network, I did meet more people like you. So thank you for this interview, and I say conversation. But thank you for providing the pre-adoptive participants with such a wealth of information today.
You're
I
welcome.
am excited to see where this journey takes you and your family. And I can't wait to keep in touch.
Great. Well,
Have a
thank you
great
so much.
day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.